Today's project is to replace the Vapor Canister Vent solenoid on my dirty 2007 Chevy Suburban. Now, before I get started, I want to let you guys know that I'm not a professional mechanic, so take everything that you see in this video for entertainment value only. If you're going to attempt a job like this yourself, make sure you consult a professional before you do. Another thing I need to point out before I get too much further in the video is that for whatever reason, throughout the rest of the video, I refer to this part as a purge solenoid, but that's really not what it is. This is the Vapor Canister Vent Valve. Anyway, I hope you can look past that and get something out of this video, even though I mispronounced the name of the part throughout. The reason I'm doing this job today is because my check engine light is on, and when I put my code scan tool on, I'm getting a P0446 code. More on that in a minute. First, let's take a look at the new part before we get started. Here's a look at the new vent solenoid that I got on Amazon. You can see the unit is here itself, and it's got some various hoses and tubes attached to it. Here's a look at the part number that I used, and you can see this is a genuine GM part. Now keep in mind, this fits my 2007 Suburban. If you're attempting this job yourself, make sure you do the research and get the part that fits your vehicle specifically. So here's a look at the codes I'm getting from my Zurich ZR13 scan tool. You can see the first one is P0446. If I scroll up, I'm actually getting a second one that's pending. Now, if you've got the right kind of diagnostic tool, you can use that to kind of test your evap system to see which part is exactly failing. Well, I don't have a scan tool like that, so I've just got to be a part swapper at this point. And that's why I'm starting with the vent solenoid first, because that seems to be the most common point of failure. The other thing that I've done is kind of check the gas cap to make sure that it seems like it's in good condition. And as far as I can tell, it is. The O-ring is there, it's not split, cracked, or missing. And when I put this in place, it clicks and kind of seals up like it should. So I think the gas cap is okay. The purge solenoid is located under the back of the car, underneath the spare tire. So the first thing we're going to do is drop that. Now these spare tires are notoriously hard to get off. They crank down to a certain point and then won't come any further due to a safety feature that GM has on these vehicles. And you can see mine is at that point right now. There's actually a lever in here that just needs to be actuated so that this thing will kind of pull out and drop the rest of the way. So what I've done is I've taken a ratchet strap, wrapped around the cross member here, and I've got the tire secured that way. Now I can loosen that center thing and actuate the safety latch so that I can drop the tire. So here's a closer look at that safety latch. You can see what happens is this just gets kind of bound up with rust and can't actuate and just needs a little bit of help. Now that we've got this down and out of the way, I'll unratchet the tire and we'll move on with the job. Okay, so we're under the car near the front of where the spare tire would be sitting, and here is the part we're going to change. Now I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but there is just one bolt up here on the top of the solenoid that holds it onto the cross member. Now I can't see it from where I'm laying, so I'm just going to use a wrench and go by feel and loosen it off. And then there's also an electrical connector over here on this side that'll need to be unplugged. So there's actually a pigtail on this one with a second connector here. This is going to be a little easier to get at, so I'm going to unplug this first. I've got a 13mm wrench on here, and I should be able to just loosen this off. So now we've got two hoses that need to be loosened up. There's this one sort of hard plastic one that goes to the front, and hopefully you can see that it travels forward, sort of over this cross member and up front towards the gas tank. And then there's the corrugated one that kind of snakes its way under here towards the filler neck. I'm going to work on the hard plastic one towards the gas tank first and see if I can get that disconnected. Here's a look at the fitting from underneath the charcoal canister. There's just kind of like a button here that needs to be pushed, and that releases some tabs inside the fitting, and then this should be able to pull straight out. Okay, so I was able to just squeeze in on that button and wiggle this loose, and now the fitting is free. So now on the other side of the solenoid, I need to take a look at this corrugated hose. I've traced it out under the car, and it kind of snakes its way up here to right by where the filler neck is. And you can see kind of that square box, that's the other end of it. There's a few zip ties here that I just need to cut, and I should be able to fish that thing through and out of the way. Well, the first thing was this little tab that was engaged to the cross member. I had to kind of lift up on this and push it forward to get it out. Now I can kind of fish this corrugated line through. All right, now that that's free, this should be able to just kind of slide down through. We'll fish out that hard line. Okay, I think we got it off. The next thing I needed to do was remove this pigtail from the old solenoid. Now there was a latch lock sort of on the connector, and when I tried to push it straight out, it broke and kind of disintegrated. The plastic's a little bit brittle. I think it'll be fine because the latch itself is still intact and in there. So we should be able to just transfer this over to the new solenoid, click it in place, and I think we'll be okay without that red piece that goes in here to kind of lock the latch. So I'll start to get the new solenoid in place by fishing the lines where they need to go. This is the hard line that goes up to the charcoal canister near the gas tank, so we'll get that fished over this cross member first. Now I'll get the solenoid kind of roughly where it goes, but just leave it floating for now. We'll grab the corrugated tube, and we'll get this guy fished over the side and up toward the filler neck. So I'll leave this floating for the moment, and I'll crawl forward and get this plastic hard tube connected up to the charcoal canister. Okay, so now I've got the end of the fitting and just put it over the nipple. You guys heard it click in place. We should be good to go there. So I've got this end fished up by the filler neck where it was before. Now I'll just use the zip ties that are already kind of attached to the hose, wrap them around these hoses like the originals were, and get them cinched in place. Now that the hoses are in place, I can connect up this pigtail to the harness on the car. Now I'll reach back up here and install the bolt that holds the bracket on. Before I get the spare tire mounted back in, I'm going to spray this down with some anti-seize, so hopefully the next time I pull this tire off, I won't have to deal with this thing not moving. So the vent valve has been in the car for about a week. I've driven it around. I've gone through the full cycle, and the check engine light and P0446 code has come back on. So in this case, that wasn't my problem. So I think the next thing that I'm going to try and replace is the fuel tank pressure sensor. Check the link below if you want to see that video.